Hello and welcome to Odds on Bundesliga, Matchday 5. We had a great game on Friday, Ronan. Bayern Munich, Leverkusen, still both undefeated, and we enjoyed a lot of goals. It was not that crazy, Leverkusen to win.
No, it didn't seem that crazy. I think maybe if I had it went for 𝐜𝐭𝐴 or plus a half or something, it would have been a winner. But we almost got there. There was obviously late drama for both teams. Both managers were up in arms. The referee came under pressure. It's everything we want from a Bundesliga game. Late goals, late equalizer. Fantastic. It just it lived up to the hype, and long may it continue.
Let's try to pick up some winners, of course. And remember, guys, as always, leave your comments and don't forget, press the like and subscribe. And now let's go on with the show. And remember as well that we have an exclusive offer with 1xBet. So if you want to register with them, we can offer you up to 130%. Just click in the link that we have in the description or use our promo code. This Friday, we start is worse than Bayern Munich Leverkusen, but we have Stuttgart, the main surprise, I would say, in this start of the season. Stuttgart, Darmstadt, because in the previous seasons, Stuttgart were fighting against relegation, and now they are scoring plenty of goals. We place them in the fourth spot, 14 goals scored, and they are hosting Darmstadt, a newly promoted team that got the first point against Gladbach in that crazy game. They were leading 3-0 at 30 minutes. The bookies give Stuttgart really low odds. Why are Stuttgart so strong this year, Ronan?
Yeah, I think the Stuttgart team has shown resilience, maybe perhaps that we didn't expect. They showed obviously in previous seasons that they're able to battle relegation and they have the mentality to get over the line. But I think few expected after they sold so many key players that they'd be performing so well. But I think a lot of it is down to the attacker they have, Guirassy. He has 8 goals in 4 games, the first player in something like 50 years to do that in the Bundesliga. So it's crazy what he's doing. He's overperforming his XG massively, but that for fans of Stuttgart, they won't complain about that. He's the biggest XG performer so far, or overperformer so far in Europe's big 5 leagues. Kylian Mbappe is second. So when you're putting yourself up against players like that, you must be doing something right. But yeah, I think he is a big reason. His goals, obviously, he is the man that they're running everything through at the moment, and they have 4 home wins in a row now. So it's going to be a very difficult tie for Darmstadt, who like you said, they were 3-0 up against Borussia Mönchengladbach. But I think although that's a good result on paper for them to get the point against Borussia Mönchengladbach, they be deflated. The fact that Gladbach were able to come back into the match, perhaps should have even won the match, that is more of a kick in the teeth compared to from where they stood after half an hour. And maybe their own mentality could be an issue in this one, because they haven't won it yet this season. That was their first point, like you said. So it could be a long and difficult season for them, travelling to an informed Stuttgart for the Friday evening kickoff. That won't be an easy match for them. Stuttgart to keep a clean sheet in this one is 2.3. I think that looks good enough. To win to Stuttgart to win to 0 is 2.55, because Darmstadt, I'm not sure where the goals are going to come from. Stuttgart definitely should get a lot of goals, but I like the value in this one for Stuttgart to be in front of halftime and then win at full time. So home in this one is 2.2, and I think that looks pretty good, because obviously the odds on Stuttgart just to win, they're not worth looking at.
Indeed, 1.4 only for Stuttgart to win. Darmstadt, they've scored 5 goals, but 3 came in the previous match day against Gladbach. Talking about teams struggling to score, Bochum going to the Allianz. Only 4 goals scored by Bochum, 3 points, no Victories is not a surprise, of course. We knew that Bochum were gonna struggle, and I have to challenge you for finding good odds for this kind of games. It's always a challenge when Bayern are playing at home against these weak teams. The only thing is that they are playing Champions League against United. They were playing against Leverkusen, so perhaps they want to keep it quiet and be a bit more relaxed, Bayern Munich against Bochum, and save some energy, let's say.
I thought you were going to call Manchester United one of these weaker teams there for a second, because the way they're playing at the moment, maybe they could be in a similar sort of fate for could await them in the Champions League. But yeah, Bochum haven't been good at all this season. They're only scoring a goal a game so far. They're creating a few chances, obviously, but they're not converting them. And I think sometimes they're trying to force goals, and they push players from defence into midfield. Their wing backs push up high to try and create chances. And against a team like Bayern Munich, that's not really going to work, is it? It's going to leave them wide open. It's going to leave them exposed. We saw Bayern Munich play a reasonably good game against Bayer Leverkusen. I think a draw was a deserved result there, but Bochum are a different kettle of fish. Obviously, they're a much weaker team against Leverkusen. Bayern should be allowed to have things their own way. We could see Konrad Laimer playing right back again. He was excellent there against Bayer Leverkusen, and I think that could be a place for him to fit in if Kimmich is going to stay in midfield rather than coming to right back, because there was question marks. There was questions asked to Kimmich after the match because he was taken off and Laimer was pushed into midfield. So I think Tuchel is trying to figure out what's the best approach. He has Mazraoui at right back as well. So this versatility should allow him to play in a lot of different ways, and that should allow Bayern Munich to be a much more attacking team, give themselves a plan B, a plan C. That's something they'll need with the Champions League, obviously, starting this week. So I think Tuchel could use this Bochum game to experiment with some of those things, because it should be an easy enough match. Like you said, it's hard to find value really anywhere. There's a few ones I'm kind of looking at. Bayern Munich to win to 0, which is 2.0. I think that could, I'm not sure where Bochum's goals are going to come from. To win both halves is 1.8. To score a penalty, I think actually could be an interesting one this week, because Bayern should have a lot of chances. They seem to be awarded more penalties than other teams in the Bundesliga, if you would believe supporters of every other club in the league. They always think there's some sort of DFB conspiracy to give Bayern Munich penalties, so maybe there could be some value there. But I think Bayern will win this one big, and the main value then I can see is Bayern Munich minus 2.75 on the Asian handicap. That's around 2, because I think they could score a lot of goals.
Okay, difficult to find good odds as always when Bayern are playing at home. Better odds, I think, and more value in the next game. Good one. We have Borussia Dortmund, Wolfsburg, and here the bookies still plays Dortmund really favorites, perhaps because, of course, when they play at home, they are strong, but they've disappointed us already this season with 2 unexpected draws. They beat Freiburg big 4-2, but they had to come back from behind, still conceding a lot of goals. And Wolfsburg, they've had a good start. Perhaps the odds are super high. For Wolfsburg to win is 5.2. Perhaps there is some value on going for the underdog in this game.
I think there could be. I think the way we've seen Borussia Dortmund so far this season, anytime I picked them to win, they haven't won. So it's kind of a case that any Borussia Dortmund could turn up. They beat Freiburg 4-2, obviously, last time out, and that was a good result for them, but perhaps not a good performance, because you saw Mats Hummels come out after the match. He scored twice himself, but he criticised the midfielders for not pressing enough. And when you're coming out saying stuff like that after a win, and where you're the star man, it kind of seems like all isn't rosy in the Borussia Dortmund camp at the moment. Things obviously can go from bad to worse, or mediocre to bad for Borussia Dortmund very quickly. We've seen it before in the past. So this could be a tricky one for Dortmund, and they have a tricky run of fixtures for the next few weeks overall. They have Hoffenheim and Union Berlin coming up in the Bundesliga, and then in the Champions League they have PSG and Milan, which neither of those are easy fixtures. So they're going to have to balance the squad. It's going to be a tough time for 𝐜𝐵𝗦𝗠𝗔𝐧𝐽. Like I've said in previous episodes, that he could be a man under pressure, and this is kind of a difficult task for him this weekend. Wolfsburg, they've looked strong enough so far this season, so there could be an upset on the cards here. Like you said, it could be a time to pick the underdog. There's a few ones that stand out for me here. Both teams to score 1.5. A draw is 4.75 even, but Wolfsburg, they could pick up a historic result here. They haven't won at Dortmund since 2012, but maybe this year is the year they can do it. So for this one, I'm tipping the Asian handicap 0, and that's just under 4. It's 3.82 is what I seen it last, and I think there is value there because Dortmund, they have so many difficult games coming up. This could be one of the ones where they slip up, especially if they try to rotate players.
Well, even if you are a little bit more cautious, let's say, we have even Wolfsburg Asian handicap +1 is 1.9. So you even have your money back if they lose by 1 goal. If you go for the Asian handicap 0, the odds, as you've mentioned, are even better. Great odds if you back Wolfsburg, also for the both teams to score. For instance, we saw in Wolfsburg games, both teams to score. So it could be a great idea. Next one, this one is good. Dortmund, Wolfsburg, but also is good. Gladbach, Leipzig, probably for the form of Leipzig. Great start of the season for them. Last 2 games, 3-0 to Augsburg, 0-3 to Union Berlin. It's true that they are playing Champions League this week, but perhaps they should get a good result against Mönchengladbach. A really bad start for them, only 2 points. It's true that they are dangerous when they play at home. They lost already to Leverkusen and Bayern, but they are conceding a lot. We saw them conceding 3 against Darmstadt, 4 against Augsburg. Ronan.
Yeah, Gladbach are looking very brittle at the back at the moment. And when you're coming up against a team like RB Leipzig, you're not really expecting them to keep a clean sheet, really, here, are you? Borussia Mönchengladbach, they were part of my ACCA last week, and I was hoping they could complete the one of the most historic comebacks in Bundesliga history. They nearly did. It was close there at the end, if only for that missed penalty. But I think it's going to be a tricky game for them. Like you said, Leipzig, even coming to Gladbach is always a tricky proposition. Leipzig are a team that are kind of playing above expectations, even though we were expecting them to do so well. But I don't think people expected them to gel so quickly. And some of the new guys, Xavi Simons, for example, kind of hitting the ground running so quickly. Just the way they dismantled Augsburg was very impressive. They kind of took the foot off the gas in the second half. They were happy enough with the 3-0 lead at half time. They kind of had one eye on the Champions League match against Young Boys. So I think they could have easily scored more goals in the second half there, but it was kind of we'll rest the players. We don't need to push all out. We need to focus on the Champions League in midweek. So they should be able to beat Young Boys easily and then come back and do something else against Gladbach. Gladbach to win, I don't see much value there for them this week. A draw is a bit more likely because obviously Leipzig do have this difficult run of fixtures, or do have a busy week of fixtures, but I like both teams to score here. I think there's a good chance that this will be an open game. From what we've seen from Gladbach so far this season, they score goals, they concede goals, so it's definitely going to continue here. But so both teams to score is 1.5, but I think there is even better value perhaps in both teams to score in the second half, because as the game opens up, and I don't think it'll be a case where Leipzig will win heavily or Gladbach will win heavily. It'll be a nice open game, so that should provide us with plenty of opportunities in the second half. The teams will play on the counter. They'll try to use their speed and their powerful strikers to score. So I think there could be goals in the second half, and that's why both teams to score in the second half looks like a good option for me. It looks like good value in this game.
All right, goals and goals. We are seeing a lot of goals in this start of the Bundesliga. Next game is Augsburg-Mainz. Here the bookies tell us that this might be a draw. The odds are very similar for both outcomes, Augsburg to win or Mainz to win. For Augsburg, only 2 points. The draws at home against Gladbach and Bochum. For Mainz, only 1 point. The draw they got at home against Frankfurt. This one looks almost or a draw or both teams to lose. No, Ronan?
Yeah, both teams to lose looks like a great bet for this one. If we could go for that, it will be a definitely interesting proposition. And if you're thinking of watching a match this Saturday, definitely don't tune into this one. It is one for the ultra hardcore. I don't expect a lot in it. I don't expect much at all. Augsburg in the second half, they drew the second half against RB Leipzig, so that was a positive for them. But after the game, their captain came out and he said that the game was a disaster, and it really was a disaster. It could have been so much worse for them. Augsburg just have looked poor so far. Mainz as well. They've only scored 3 times so far this season. They've conceded 12. They're deservedly in last place. They just don't look like a team that is capable of taking anything from a lot of these opponents. They set up extremely defensively against Stuttgart. It looked like they were hoping for a freak result that they wouldn't get hammered and they might be able to take away a lucky point. It wasn't like they set up to play on the counter and maybe score some goals. It looked like a 7-3-1 at some stages of the match, or 7-2-1, I should say. At some stages of the match, it was just a super defensive approach, and I don't expect much of a change against Augsburg. Both teams to score no in this game is 2.4. That is an intriguing one for me because I'm not expecting a lot here. But I think Mainz, because they're so terrible, and Augsburg might just have enough to take something from this game. I think the 𝐜𝐴Z𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐿 for Augsburg here, coming in just under 2, could be good value.
Well, the best team for both teams to score is Hoffenheim. 4 out of 4 games ended in both teams to score. They are going to the capital to face Union Berlin. Perhaps they can get something out of here because Union Berlin, they are playing this game after visiting El Bernabeu. 6 points for them. For Hoffenheim, great start of the season. 9 points. The only defeat came in the opening day against Freiburg, and usually we see a lot of goals in both ends. Actually, all 4 games of these 2 teams ended with over 2.5 goals.
Yeah, definitely looks like one where there could be lots of goals. And Union Berlin, like you said, they're traveling to Madrid to face Real Madrid, so that's going to be a historic game for them anyway. They're going to be. It's their first ever Champions League game. The fans are going to absolutely love the experience of being in the Champions League, and what a way to start your Champions League career away at Real Madrid. But I'm not sure they can take much out of the game, and the fact that it will be such a difficult game for them, they'll have to travel back and play on Saturday. It's going to be a difficult week for Union Berlin. They haven't looked this season like the same team that finished in the top 4 last season. They've been sloppy. It's not really what you expect from an Urs Fischer team. They're usually well disciplined. They usually are a dogged team to play against, but no, they've kind of let themselves down in matches so far this season. And Hoffenheim, on the other hand, they've been kind of performing very well. They seem to have found something in the attacking trio that they have at the moment. Maximilian Bayer, Wout Weghorst, André Kramaric. 2 of the 3 of them scored last week, and they seem to be linking up very well. Obviously, Weghorst was the one that wasn't on the score sheet. We've come to expect that maybe, but he can provide so much more. He's a great link-up man. We've seen it for the Netherlands. We've seen it when he was in the Bundesliga before. We've even seen it during his stint at Manchester United. We saw how well he can hold up the ball, and when he's giving it to players like Kramaric, who can score from anywhere, and then Bayer, who is perhaps he's Germany's next upcoming striker. They seem to be pinning their hopes on anybody at the moment, but he scored for their underage side during the international break. So I think he has something about him, and I like the look of him maybe getting on the score sheet in this game. Both teams to score, like you said, it seems to happen all the time in this match. That's 1.7. That looks like a good option, but I think Union Berlin, they're going to have a difficult week this week, especially after traveling to Madrid. I think that helps Hoffenheim massively, and I think if you look at their odds for Asian handicap 0, it's 2.62, and that there could be good value in that.
Well, the over 2.5 goals that I've mentioned, this had happened during the season for both ends, is 1.89. Perhaps is also a good option. Is a bit unsexy, I have to say. The late kickoff on Saturday this time is Werder Bremen. Cologne, two teams that haven't won yet in the season. Werder Bremen, one victory, 3 points for Cologne. Only 1 point, two poor teams so far. The only victory for Werder Bremen came at home, 4-0 against Mainz. And the bookies again tell us that this should be a draw. I'm quite unsure why they place Werder Bremen to win with the odds that high, Ronan, especially because Cologne, they've been so poor.
Yeah, it does look like one of those ones that could be a draw, and you can see why the odds are like that for a draw. The draw is 3.73, and the most common result in this match is a 1-1, and you wouldn't be surprised if it ended 1-1, because neither team have been pulling up trees so far this season. Cologne, they had a man down against Hoffenheim. They lost 3-1. They had a lot of shots in the game. They created more shots than Hoffenheim. It was 18-13, including block shots. And they were like that David Moyes team we seen years ago. They just kept putting the ball in the box. It was cross after cross after cross. They had 34 crosses in the game, but it didn't seem to amount to anything. And they're a very one-dimensional team at the moment. They don't really have too much about them in creating goal-scoring chances. They'll create shots, but they're not shots of any kind of decent caliber. So the shot count might be high, but the XG is probably low, kind of, for the way they're playing at the moment. And for the Bremen, their own strikers, it's a bit of a minefield there. 𝐿𝐭𝐴𝐷𝐿 started with 𝐿𝐭𝐿𝐿 up front, and they did not look good at all. They just didn't link up well in attack together, and then they were taken off. 𝐿𝐭𝐿𝐿 was taken off at half time, and then Ole Werner kind of tried to change things around with a triple substitution at half time. It initially looked like it might pay dividends, but in the end they lost 4-2 to Heidenheim, and they deserved to lose. And this is a game in the past that you would have thought that Werder Bremen would win it comfortably, and they just didn't look like a team that were able to do it. So I think 1-1 does look like a very optimistic result. It could even be 0-0. I don't expect a lot of goals in this game. So I suppose the best value for me is a total goals one, and total goals under 2.75. It's just under 2, and I don't see a lot of goals in this match.
Well, it's not a great game to watch, I think, this one for a late kickoff. On Saturday, on Sunday, we have the teams involved in the Europa League or the conference. Bayer Leverkusen. Heidenheim is the first one. This one is an interesting one to watch because we are enjoying a lot this Leverkusen, and because we see a lot of goals in the games where Heidenheim are involved. 8 goals scored in 4 games for a newly promoted team, to be honest, is awesome.
Yeah, it really is. Heidenheim, they had a historic result last week. It was their first ever Bundesliga win. So that's obviously a huge day for the club, and it's a huge day for the players. They, like I said in the previous match, they deserved to beat Werder Bremen. It wasn't just a fortunate win. It was a match where they showed that they can handle themselves against the big boys. But unfortunately, they're against one of the biggest boys of all in Bayer Leverkusen this weekend. It's not the easiest game. Even with Leverkusen in European action, Leverkusen have a deep squad, so they should be able to rotate well. So it's going to be a tricky task for Heidenheim to try and pick up 2 wins in a row. I don't think it's going to happen. And the way Leverkusen have been playing so far this season, they just look like a team that is capable of challenging Bayern Munich for the title. And we saw that last Friday. They were able to pick up a point against Bayern Munich. And Xabi Alonso, he's again being touted as future Real Madrid manager, future Bayern Munich manager, future Liverpool manager, whatever connection of the club he has, he's been touted as their future manager. And it's not really a surprise. The team are playing so well, they're creating so many chances, they're getting the ball into the box and into good positions so often. And Boniface as well, he's set the record so far for the most Bundesliga shots in his first 4 games. He has 29 shots in total so far this season, and that's 9 more than the previous record. So he's absolutely smashing it. As well as that, he was the opposition player with the most touches in the box last week in the top 5 leagues in Europe. So, and that was against Bayern Munich. It wasn't like he was against some poor side. He was busy in the box against one of Europe's best teams, and he was the busiest player in an opposition box in any of Europe's leagues last week. So Bayer Leverkusen will create chances, and they'll get the ball into good areas, and they'll get players on the score sheet. And I think there could be a lot of goals in this one. There's over 3.5 goals is 1.93. Both teams to score 1.78. There might be good value in those ones. Like home is 1.75, but I think even better odds than the home one is to Bayer Leverkusen to win both halves, because I think they don't take the foot off the gas. They will keep going for more goals. Xabi Alonso doesn't know how to stop. So I think them to win both halves at 2.5 could be good value in this game.
Well, they are playing in Europe, but they have an easy fixture, so perhaps they can't thrash the Heidenheim. Freiburg, on the other hand, the other team involved in the Europa League, they have a tricky trip to Athens, and they have a tricky trip also on Sunday to Frankfurt. Only 6 points, but no defeats yet, drawing a lot of games. 3 of them actually ended in 1-1, the most common score that you mentioned before, and all of them under 2.5 goals is the exception of the rule in the Bundesliga, where we are seeing a lot of goals.
Yeah, I think this could be another draw. It has the hallmarks of one with teams involved in midweek action, and Freiburg, they look very frustrated against Dortmund. They look frustrated on the pitch, look frustrated off the pitch. Christian Streich came out after the match. He said it was brutal, and then he said that it was going to be a long season for the club, and it could be a long season for the club. Obviously, they're so busy with European games, but they just don't look the same as they did last season. And there was a wrong decision to bench Vincenzo Grifo in the game, and he was made come on early enough. As Gregoritsch got injured, he made a huge difference immediately. He got 2 assists. He could have even had a 3rd assist in the second half. So I think Christian Streich is he's trying that delicate balance of European games and Bundesliga games, and perhaps they don't have a squad that's deep enough to be benching some of your key players. It's not like they have great players in reserve to come along like some of the other teams who spend a lot of money. Frankfurt as well, so far this season, they've been chopping and changing formations. They did it in game in the last game. Topmuller he's still getting used to playing at the Bundesliga and coaching in the Bundesliga. I'm not sure it's the right place to learn on the job, but that's what he's doing, and it's not being super effective so far. Like you said, a draw seems likely in this one, and if you look historically, in the last 42 meetings between the two teams, there have been 10 draws. So a quarter of the time it ends in a draw, and half the time last season it was a draw, and that draw was 1-1. So I think both teams to score 1.71 looks all right. A draw, no bet for Freiburg is 2.6. That also looks favourable, but a draw overall could be the way to go. 3.71, I think they look good odds because this match has draw written all over it.
Well, if you go for a 1-1 draw, is 7.5. If you fancy the exact score, always a high risk, but perhaps we see another 1-1 in this game. Last safe bet for you, I think, was Bayern Munich, Leverkusen, both teams to score after analyzing all the games in this 5th match day in the Bundesliga. Ronan, your safe bet is?
Bayern Munich versus Bochum, halftime, full-time, home, 1.43. Bayern Munich just to score early and win. Bayern Munich to win is obviously always a good bet.
Very safe.
Yeah. But if you want to be a bit more particular about it, I think they'll score early and then hold on and win.
Okay, and last week Gladbach ruined a very high ACCA. Actually, I think it was above 6. Let's try your ACCA for this 5th match day.
Yeah, it's Bayern Munich versus Bochum, halftime, full-time, home, 1.43. Stuttgart to win at 1.47. Bayer Leverkusen to win at 1.26. And Borussia Dortmund and Wolfsburg, both teams to score at 1.51.
Total odds 4.5. 6.0 for your ACCA. Good luck to everyone. Thanks, Ronan. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Don't forget, just press the like and subscribe. Bye-bye.